As Secretary of State Marco Rubio embarks on his inaugural international trip, the stakes for U.S. diplomacy in Central America have never been higher. With plans to visit Panama, El Salvador, Guatemala, Costa Rica, and the Dominican Republic, Rubio is stepping into a region marked by a complex web of challenges primarily stemming from President Donald Trump's recent controversial policies and statements. Rubio's journey comes on the heels of two significant diplomatic flare-ups initiated by Trump: the incendiary suggestion that the U.S. might regain control of the Panama Canal and the onset of a brief trade conflict with Colombia over immigration issues. Such actions have raised eyebrows in the region, with leaders like Panama's President José Raúl Mulino firmly rejecting any discussions about the canal's ownership. "It's impossible, I can't negotiate. The canal belongs to Panama," he stated emphatically, signaling the tension that Rubio will need to navigate during his visit. This trip is noteworthy not only for its immediate implications but also for its historical context. It is uncommon for a U.S. Secretary of State to commence their term with a focus on Latin America, as most predecessors have traditionally opted for visits to Europe or Asia. In fact, one must go back to 1912 to find a similar whirlwind tour of Latin America when Philander Chase Knox spent a month traversing the region. "This is a really interesting moment for U.S. relations with Latin America," commented Benjamin Gedden from the Wilson Center, emphasizing the potential shifts in diplomatic dynamics amidst rising tensions. Central to Rubio's agenda is the increasing influence of China in the region. He has expressed serious concerns regarding Chinese control over key ports near the Panama Canal, warning that this could create strategic vulnerabilities. "If China wanted to obstruct traffic in the Panama Canal, they could," Rubio remarked, underscoring the national security implications of Chinese investments in Latin America. Leland Lazarus, an expert on China-Latin America relations, noted that Rubio faces a daunting challenge in presenting viable alternatives for these countries, which have increasingly turned to China as a trading partner. As the first Latino Secretary of State, Rubio brings a unique perspective to the role, having previously championed issues related to Latin America during his tenure as a senator. However, analysts suggest that his policies may not diverge significantly from those of his predecessors. "In terms of policy, there's going to be more continuity than change," said Alexander Avina, a historian at Arizona State University. This continuity is exemplified by Rubio's strong stance against authoritarian regimes in countries like Cuba and Venezuela, while simultaneously engaging with leaders such as Nayib Bukele of El Salvador, whose increasingly authoritarian governance presents a complex dilemma for U.S. diplomacy. The backdrop of this diplomatic mission is a region grappling with the ramifications of U.S. immigration policies and economic challenges exacerbated by Trump's previous threats of military intervention and mass deportations. As Rubio prepares to engage with Central American leaders, the prospects for cooperation on pressing issues like migration and drug trafficking will be paramount. The Secretary of State has acknowledged the fragmented nature of the region and the strategic importance of maintaining U.S. influence amidst competing interests. Rubio's trip, while laden with historical implications, also serves as a litmus test for the Trump administration's approach to Latin America. With a series of contentious issues at play, including the future of the Panama Canal, immigration reform, and the overarching challenge posed by Chinese investments, Rubio holds the delicate task of reassuring regional partners while advocating for U.S. interests. As he sets off on this critical journey, the outcomes of his discussions may set the tone for U.S.-Latin America relations in the years to come, with the potential for significant shifts depending on how effectively he can navigate these complex waters. In a pivotal diplomatic exchange, Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth recently engaged in an introductory call with Japanese Minister of Defense Nakatani Gen, underscoring the importance of the U.S.-Japan alliance in promoting peace and security across the Indo-Pacific region. This conversation, which took place on January 30, 2025, comes at a time when regional security dynamics are increasingly complex and the collaboration between the U.S. and Japan is more critical than ever. During the call, Minister Nakatani extended his congratulations to Hegseth on his appointment, expressing his eagerness to work closely to further the priorities of the alliance. The two officials emphasized the necessity of enhancing defense cooperation, a move seen as essential for strengthening deterrence in the face of evolving threats. They reiterated their commitment to modernizing alliance command and control structures while also expanding the bilateral military presence in Japan's Southwest Islands. Such steps are crucial as both nations seek to uphold a shared vision of a free and open Indo-Pacific. The discussions between Hegseth and Nakatani reflect broader strategic objectives aimed at countering pressures from regional adversaries. As tensions rise in the Indo-Pacific with actors like North Korea and China asserting their influence, the US-Japan partnership stands as a formidable counterbalance. "We must work together across academia, industry, the government and the military," Hegseth remarked, highlighting the multifaceted nature of the alliance that extends beyond mere military cooperation. The call also signals a continuation of U.S. efforts to deepen its ties with allies in the region. As both nations navigate the complexities of their security environment, the reinforcement of defense mechanisms and collaboration on mutual security interests will be critical. The commitment to remain in close contact on these matters is an indication of the proactive stance both parties aim to adopt in addressing shared challenges. Meanwhile, in the political arena, the confirmation of Hegseth as Secretary of Defense has not been without controversy. Senator Tom Tillis, whose vote was pivotal in securing Hegseth's position, recently spoke about the vetting process that took place prior to the confirmation vote. In an interview, Tillis emphasized the importance of addressing allegations against Hegseth with due diligence, ultimately deciding to support the nominee after finding insufficient corroboration for last-minute claims made against him. "Anytime you have an allegation and somebody is willing to put it in sworn testimony, you owe it to the process to review it," Tillis stated, underlining the gravity with which he approached the situation. As the Pentagon navigates these political waters, Hegseth's recent remarks about the military's potential role in striking against drug cartels in Mexico have raised eyebrows. Following President Trump's executive orders designating these cartels as foreign terrorist organizations, Hegseth indicated that all options will be on the table, hinting at a possible escalation of military involvement in border security. This development illustrates the shifting landscape of U.S. defense policy, where domestic security concerns increasingly intersect with international military strategy. As these narratives unfold, the U.S.-Japan alliance will likely remain a focal point of strategic discussions both bilaterally and within the broader Indo-Pacific context. The commitment to cooperation and modernization highlights a collective determination to adapt to a rapidly changing security environment. Future developments in this arena, particularly in light of Hegseth's controversial confirmation and the evolving military posture on the border, will be crucial to watch, as they could significantly impact regional stability and U.S. foreign policy. The coming months will reveal how these dynamics play out, shaping the future of defense collaboration in the Indo-Pacific. In a contentious Senate confirmation hearing this week, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. faced scrutiny over his claims regarding the federal government's allocation of funding for chronic diseases versus infectious diseases. If confirmed as the Secretary of Health and Human Services, Kennedy has promised to prioritize chronic diseases, asserting that federal resources have disproportionately favored infectious diseases. "We've devoted all of these dollars to infectious disease and to drug development and very little to chronic disease," he stated, highlighting the escalating rates of diabetes, cancer, asthma, and obesity, particularly among children. However, his assertions have been met with skepticism as federal data appears to contradict his claims. Kennedy's testimony came as he sought to solidify his position in a role that would oversee a staggering $1.7 trillion annual budget in numerous health agencies, including the National Institutes of Health (NIH) and the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention (CDC). Prior to the hearings, Kennedy suggested a significant shift in focus away from infectious diseases like COVID-19 and measles, advocating instead for an 8-year hiatus on such research. His critics, including several Democratic senators and even some Republicans with medical backgrounds, have raised alarms about his controversial history of anti-vaccine rhetoric and promotion of conspiracy theories. In his statements, Kennedy claimed that infectious diseases receive vastly more federal funding than chronic conditions. Yet a closer examination of NIH funding reveals a more nuanced picture. In 2024, funding for infectious diseases amounted to $8.1 billion, placing it ninth among research subjects. In comparison, funding for cancer research alone was nearly equivalent at $8 billion, while other chronic diseases such as Alzheimer's and cardiovascular issues also received substantial support. Kennedy has long linked vaccines to various health concerns, including autism, a claim that is both scientifically unfounded and has been widely discredited. He reiterated his belief that environmental toxins are significant contributors to chronic diseases and called for more research into their effects. There's almost nothing at NIH that is devoted to finding out why we're having this obesity epidemic, he remarked, emphasizing the need for scientific inquiry into environmental factors. Experts in the field have pointed out that the increase in chronic diseases may correlate with advances in the management of infectious diseases. Dr. Joel Kaufman, a physician epidemiologist, noted that the success of infectious disease treatments has allowed more people to survive and potentially develop chronic conditions later in life. What causes most disease and disability now has transitioned from communicable infectious diseases to chronic diseases, he explained. Kennedy's testimony was further complicated by a letter submitted to the Senate purportedly signed by physicians supporting his nomination. An investigation revealed that many signatories had faced disciplinary actions, including revoked licenses, raising questions about the credibility of the endorsement. Critics highlighted the presence of individuals without medical credentials among the signatories, casting doubt on the legitimacy of the support. As Kennedy navigates this challenging confirmation process, his past comments regarding mental health treatments, particularly antidepressants, have also come under fire. In a prior podcast appearance, he speculated that the rise of school shootings could be linked to the use of antidepressants, a claim that has been widely criticized as lacking scientific backing. Senator Tina Smith confronted him on this issue during the hearings, emphasizing the harm such misinformation can cause to those struggling with mental health issues. The ongoing discussions surrounding Kennedy's nomination underscore the delicate balance between addressing chronic diseases and ensuring that infectious disease research continues to receive adequate funding. As the Senate deliberates, the outcomes may have lasting implications for public health policy in the United States. Observers are left questioning not only Kennedy's potential influence on health initiatives but also the broader discourse around health funding and misinformation in the medical field. The coming weeks will be crucial in determining the direction of health policy under Kennedy's possible leadership and whether his controversial views will shape future federal health strategies. As Pam Bondi moves closer to her anticipated confirmation as the U.S. Attorney General, her nomination has sparked significant contention, particularly among Second Amendment advocates. Bondi, a longtime ally of former President Donald Trump and a former Attorney General of Florida, has a history of supporting gun control measures that have left many in the gun rights community feeling uneasy about her prospective role in the Justice Department. Bondi's tenure as Florida's Attorney General was notably marked by her response to the tragic 2018 Parkland shooting, where 17 students and staff lost their lives. In the aftermath, she championed legislation that prohibited gun sales to individuals under 21 and implemented a red flag law enabling law enforcement to temporarily seize firearms from those considered a threat to themselves or others. These actions have led to a schism between Bondi and staunch gun rights groups like the National Rifle Association (NRA) and Gun Owners of America, both of which argue that her policies infringe upon the rights of law-abiding gun owners. She's had a rocky relationship with the gun rights groups. It's a mixed bag from their point of view, said Stephen Gutowski, founder of the Reload, a news outlet focused on gun ownership and policy. This sentiment is echoed in the skepticism surrounding her nomination, even as she gains support from Republican lawmakers. Notably, during her Senate confirmation hearing, there were no questions from Republican senators regarding her gun control policies, despite the concerns raised by Second Amendment advocates. Democrats, too, have expressed their reservations about Bondi questioning her loyalty to Trump and her previous lobbying work for corporations like Amazon and Uber. They fear she may leverage her position to target Trump's political adversaries. Bondi has asserted her commitment to maintaining the independence of the Justice Department, promising not to politicize investigations. "There will never be an enemies list within the Department of Justice," she stated during her hearing, addressing concerns about potential conflicts of interest stemming from her past affiliations. Amidst this backdrop, her confirmation is seen as a potential setback for the gun rights movement. Gutowski noted that the lack of vocal assurances from Republican senators regarding her future stance on gun control could indicate a troubling trend for advocates of gun rights. While Bondi's past actions align with some of Trump's mixed record on gun control, where he has both implemented bans on certain accessories and expressed support for red flag laws, her future policies remain uncertain. The only significant question posed about her stance on gun laws during the hearings came from California Democratic Senator Alex Padilla, who inquired about her support for universal background checks and a national red flag law. Bondi's response was non-committal, stating, "I would be glad to meet with you and review any legislation that you have." Senator. This cautious approach highlights the complexities of her position as she navigates the expectations of both the Republican Party and the gun rights community. As Bondi's confirmation moves closer, the implications of her past decisions and future policies on gun rights will be closely scrutinized. The ongoing debates around gun control are likely to intensify as she steps into her new role, leaving many to wonder how her tenure will shape the landscape of gun legislation in the United States. With the political climate as polarized as ever, Bondi's actions as Attorney General could set a precedent for how gun rights are approached in the coming years, making her confirmation not only a pivotal moment for her career but for the broader discussion around the Second Amendment as well. In a notable turn of events within the Trump administration, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent has recently made headlines for both his high-profile real estate acquisition and significant advancements in his department. Bessent, confirmed by the Senate just days ago, has reportedly purchased a luxurious mansion in Washington, D.C. for an impressive $12.5 million. This acquisition underscores Bessent's rising profile in the political landscape, particularly as he steps into his role during a period marked by significant economic challenges and administrative reshuffling. Bessent's confirmation was closely followed by a letter from banking groups across all 50 states, along with Puerto Rico, urging him to appoint Federal Reserve Governor Michelle Bowman as the vice chair for supervision at the central bank. This request highlights the banking sector's desire for stability and experienced leadership amid the ongoing economic turbulence. As Claire Williams, a reporter for American Banker, noted, "It's critical for banks to mitigate modern third-party threats to keep systems and data secure," implying that the appointment of a qualified trusted figure like Bowman could provide the necessary oversight. Meanwhile, tensions within the Treasury Department were brought to life following the abrupt departure of David Lebrick, a senior official who resisted Elon Musk's cost-cutting initiatives. Lebrick's exit raises pressing questions about the influence Musk may wield over federal financial systems. According to reports, Musk's team sought access to the government's vast payment network, a move that could potentially disrupt the disbursement of critical federal funds. As Lebrick stated in his farewell communication, the Fiscal Service performs some of the most vital functions in government, and his departure signals a concerning shift toward greater political interference in financial operations. The backdrop to these developments is a precarious economic environment. The Treasury recently began employing extraordinary measures to avert a government default following the expiration of a debt limit suspension. The urgency of accurately tracking federal expenditures is paramount as the administration navigates this financial minefield. Musk's claims of widespread fraud within federal payments, which he estimates to be in the hundreds of billions, further complicate the narrative. The Government Accountability Office reported $236 billion in improper payments last fiscal year, emphasizing the need for robust oversight. As the Trump administration continues to reshape its cabinet and policies, the implications of these events are likely to resonate throughout the financial sector and beyond. The interplay between Bessent's leadership, the banking sector's influence, and Musk's ambitious proposals for government efficiency will shape the administration's fiscal policies moving forward. Observers will be keenly watching how these dynamics unfold, particularly in relation to the management of federal funds and the overall direction of the economy. With the confirmation of new appointments and ongoing discussions about financial reform, the coming weeks will be critical in determining the trajectory of both the Treasury Department and the broader economic landscape under the Trump administration. In a pivotal confirmation hearing on January 29, 2025, Commerce Secretary nominee Howard Lutnick outlined a bold vision for technology policy under the Trump administration, particularly focusing on issues of trade, technological competition, and intellectual property. With increasing scrutiny on U.S.-China relations and the race for dominance in artificial intelligence, Lutnick's testimony provided insight into how he plans to navigate these challenges if confirmed. Lutnick, who was introduced by Vice President J.D. Vance, reaffirmed his commitment to President Trump's America First agenda. He emphasized the need to revitalize American manufacturing, particularly in the semiconductor sector, while addressing concerns over China's technological ambitions. During the hearing, senators queried Lutnick about the future of key initiatives like the CHIPS and Science Act and U.S. export controls, especially following China's recent advancements with its AI model DeepSeek. The Chinese have used stolen and leveraged U.S. technologies to compete against us, Lutnick stated, highlighting the urgency of reinforcing export controls to curb such practices. The nominee expressed a firm stance on establishing reciprocity with China regarding intellectual property rights. He criticized China for its lack of respect toward U.S. innovators, declaring, "They should expect the same treatment in the United States." Lutnick's oversight of the Bureau of Industry and Security in the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office would be crucial in implementing this policy direction, which aims to prevent China from exploiting the U.S. patent system. Lutnick's approach to artificial intelligence suggests a preference for a regulatory environment that fosters innovation without stifling growth. He advocated for a light-touch regulatory framework that would allow U.S. AI firms to establish global standards akin to the U.S. cybersecurity benchmarks that have gained international acceptance. NIST will be the central hub of knowledge for the American government, he remarked, emphasizing the importance of the National Institute of Standards and Technology in this effort. In addressing global trade, Lutnick reiterated Trump's tariff policies, arguing that American farmers, ranchers, and fishers have been disadvantaged in international markets. He stressed that tariffs on Chinese imports would be a priority under his leadership, viewing them as essential for protecting American businesses and fostering a more equitable trading environment. Another key area discussed during the hearing was the Commerce Department's Broadband Equity Access and Deployment BEAD program, aimed at expanding high-speed internet access nationwide. Lutnick committed to addressing concerns surrounding the program's implementation, criticizing the previous administration for delays and underscoring the importance of U.S. leadership in 5G and 6G technologies. Interestingly, Lutnick's comments on the CHIPS and Science Act revealed a more nuanced stance. Despite President Trump's previous criticisms of the act, Lutnick referred to it as an excellent down payment to reinvigorate semiconductor manufacturing in the U.S. He indicated a willingness to scrutinize funding under the act in alignment with the administration's directives, suggesting a careful balance between support for innovation and adherence to budgetary constraints. The hearing also illuminated Lutnick's broader strategy regarding spectrum allocation for wireless communication. With the growing demand for 5G technology, his inclination to favor commercial interests over federal usage signals a potential shift in how spectrum resources are managed. "If I'm going to be your Secretary of Commerce, I lean towards commerce," he affirmed, hinting at a collaborative effort with lawmakers to facilitate access to crucial mid-band spectrum while ensuring national security is not compromised. As Lutnick awaits confirmation, the implications of his policies could significantly shape the landscape of U.S. technology and trade. His commitment to addressing the challenges posed by China, fostering domestic innovation, and navigating the complexities of global trade suggests a proactive approach that aligns with the Trump administration's ethos. However, the effectiveness of these strategies will depend on Lutnick's ability to balance competing interests and translate his vision into actionable policies that reinforce U.S. technological leadership. Looking ahead, Lutnick's confirmation could mark a transformative period for American technology policy, particularly in the context of intensifying competition with China and the pressing need to secure U.S. interests in the evolving global landscape. As the Senate prepares to vote on his nomination, stakeholders across industries will be keenly observing how Lutnick's leadership may redefine the Commerce Department's role in shaping America's technological future.